So who is the government in debt to? Well, the answer is mostly regular people. Now, you may have heard things on the news or something about how the United States is in debt to other countries. Often there's big concern about, oh, China holds XYZ amount of United States debt. And what that really means is just that a good portion of those regular people happen to not be American. About a third of those people, in fact, are from other countries. And many of them, yeah, are from China, but it's not the Chinese government holding debt that they could potentially ask the United States to suddenly pay. Now, the way that everyday regular people hold United States debt, United States government debt, I should say, is through bonds. And you may have seen posters like this from World War II around buying war bonds. And what they are is basically IOUs to the government. So when the government needs cash quickly, what they do is they start issuing bonds where you would, for example, give the government $5 and they would give you a note, a bond note, that says that they owe you $5 with interest. So in, say, 15 years, if you go to cash it in, then they would have to give you $5 plus whatever interest they owe you. Say it was 1% on that $5, that would make it 5 cents per year times those 15 years would be, what, 70 cents? So you get 570 back. So this is known to be a solid long-term investment to buy government bonds because you know the United States government is good for them. They won't go out of business as other companies that you might buy stock in would. And so for this reason, that last 20% is held by banks and lending institutions around the world because it's seen as a solid long-term investment. But what happens if the debt gets too high? If the government somehow gives out too many bonds and can't pay them all back? Well, it's not that simple, at least for the federal government. So state governments, county governments, city governments, they all have bank accounts just like you or I, and they could run out of money just like you or me. The city of Seattle theoretically could go bankrupt if they spend more money than they are bringing in taxes. The federal government is a little bit different because, again, they print the money, right? So the federal government can't run out of money. They can't go bankrupt because they can theoretically just print more of it. Now you might be thinking, isn't inflation a thing, right? If a government just keeps printing money, won't they end up like you see pictures of post-World War I Germany, where there was hyperinflation and you see people wheeling around wheelbarrows full of cash to go buy a loaf of bread? Yes, that is a possibility. But so far in the United States, despite, as we saw in the last video, the debt increasing significantly, we haven't seen inflation that would really match what you would expect. And there could be all sorts of reasons for it. Economists have all sorts of theories why that is. And the prominent ones are A, that government funds are distributed mostly electronically now. So if the government wants to distribute money, they don't have to print more money necessarily. When they give billions of dollars to, say, a bank to keep it from going out of business, they don't send semi-trucks full of cash over to the bank. They just type a few numbers onto a keyboard, and suddenly the bank's statements have more money in them. Kind of like direct deposit. If anyone has a job with direct deposit, for example, I have that. Theoretically, each month, the school district sends a check straight to my bank account. So really just my bank account, the number gets bigger at the beginning of each month. I never actually am given cash. In fact, it's not until I go to a bank or ATM and withdraw that cash that it even turns into physical cash that I can hold. So in theory, the debt could keep increasing without changing the amount of physical dollar bills in circulation. The second thing is that most money in the US, like we talked about the other day, is just sitting in a few bank accounts. So it's not actually being circulated. So it's almost like it's taken out of circulation. That is because of income inequality. There are people in this country that have more wealth than anyone in the history of the United States has ever accumulated in bank accounts. In fact, about a third, as we said, of overall wealth in this country is sitting in just 3 bank accounts, or the bank accounts of 3 families. The third thing is that most people in the United States are poor or in debt. So a lot of wealth, a lot of overall money that people have is actually in the form of debt. Student loans, house loans, car loans. A lot of people own debt. So if you were to increase the amount of money people had, it would just erase that number on a screen of the amount that people owe, theoretically.